All right, so Ricardo, you will talk about Cyberpunk Edgerunners. I say you, Ricardo, because
I didn't watch it.
I just well, one, I didn't watch it, and two, well, my reason is kind of dumb, but it makes sense. I never play the games. It's not like I never
Right.
wanted to, but just
Okay, so
I have a PC, I don't have a console, so
you don't
it's that.
super need to, but yeah, because to be fair, this doesn't do the best job of establishing the world. But I felt it's still not that half bad. All right,
Right.
so
Well, that's the last thing I'll say. Well, how I approach this, right? Because it's another video game to anime adaptation, right? I look at it similar to like how we went into Tekken Bloodline, right?
right,
We're
where you can
familiar with
add
the
on over
games,
Tekken,
right?
yeah.
So even though characters are introduced, like I know this character, I know that character, they could change stuff up and whatnot, but we know who the characters are. So even if they don't stop to explain who they are, we're familiar with them through the games. I feel like I had to know a lot about the world of Cyberpunk before I even jump into the show here. But Ricardo, you could tell me if I'm right or wrong. But yeah, take it away.
Yeah.
What was
No,
Edgerunners about?
you're not entirely wrong. As I said, I don't think this did a that good of a job of truly establishing the world. If you're familiar with the games, you could like pretty much pick up and follow. And I kind of familiar with the games, kind of. I watch. So okay, so yeah, quick run through. I am a fan of Mike Pondsmith, right? Yeah, one of the few black creators, black sci-fi creators. He's the creator of the world of cyberpunk. Everything is based off of his ideas back in the 80s. And yeah, I met him once a long time ago, like about 12 years ago. Great
Okay,
dude, right?
nice.
Great dude, decent enough dude. The material, it works for what it is. But you see, that's the thing. It is when it was made, it was when it was made. It's such an 80s thing. And we could debate, Cyberpunk has an entire science fiction aesthetic, has that same conceit and problem of being a little on the dated end of things in terms of like, well, this is how the technology going to look like and be. Or,
Right.
this is it gonna this is how the world is in terms of like in terms of corporate power or how small things, right? Like it's
Yeah,
like, well,
well, sorry to cut you, but I think the reason for that is easy. So I'll throw Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049, right? So
yeah,
first one 2019 or 2029, it was set, right? And this the next one was 2049, right? So it's one of those things like for us when we actually see 2029, it's like now the show look even more dated, right?
yeah,
Even right now with the advanced technology that we're seeing here right now. So by the time we actually reach to 2029 or 2049, we look at those shows and be like, wow, they're like real, like, this
but
is like real old shit though. I
yeah,
think that's the issue with cyberpunk, that
yeah,
genre.
yeah, exactly. The entire genre have that problem, and it's very 80s Japan. Is Japan anti-Japanese anxieties in terms of economy. There's a kind of Orientalist conceit to the whole thing. It always had that problem. Like the franchise, all cyberpunk has that general problem. I always notice, right? But whatever, it's fine. And how I always saw the main conceit of the storyline is that, well, you could do what you had to do for what it is, but still you need to do a reasonably smart world building and make that work, right? So yeah,
Right. Well, can I just ask one last question before I jump into the synopsis? Is it that? But I always assume that the game itself did that, like at least
right. No,
updated the
that is it.
genre in a smart way, right? Did it?
Not really. Like
Oh,
what the game does is that it's still kind of. I think the game still kind of falls into that trap, and to be honest. But what the game does is that it says it doesn't. To me, it doesn't really do that good of a job of explaining away why it is that certain things are the way they are. I'll give us a little simple examples like why it is that more people don't hack the world, or did I explain why it is that you would be living life in such a dingy way now? It makes sense in the early 90s why stuff would look like this, but not now. Like, oh no, people would have different solutions to these problems, and it don't feel evolved in any workable sense. I just like it never felt like that compared now to something like Mass Effect, where I always felt Mass Effect did a great job of addressing these problems and explaining away the usual space opera things. Like every time you have a complaint or the usual space opera question, Mass Effect had an answer for the most part. It's the same thing I have with but Cyberpunk never really felt it had an answer. Well, I admit I didn't dug too deep into Cyberpunk's world building or lore. Um, and what all Cyberpunk used to just do to me, in the game at least, is it just a sort of like stuff about others. It just makes reference to other Cyberpunk stuff and it'll make like conceits that imply that other cyberpunk storylines are occurring. That's very famous storylines. So they'll make a reference to Neuromancer, or they'll make a reference to the Diamond Age or something like that, right? They'll say, hey, they'll talk about like some book, and they're like, oh, that's the primer from the Diamond Age. All right, cool. Or they'll make a reference to this, and they'll be like, oh yeah, that is from Snow Crash, or something like that, right? That's how it feels like it, in my opinion. So to get into Cyberpunk, this actual story is based off of this main character called Dave. What he is, he's a student who mom, scrounging she little salary just to get him to go to this wealthy school, so he could basically get a job as a corpo. And in the world of Cyberpunk, the corpo is like one of the big, reasonably well paid, but one of the big factions in this city, right? That's basically the thing. But what happens is that he got his mom got killed in a car accident in the first episode. And then you find out his mom the reason his mom making money, because like it was implied earlier that the mom had to be some kind of prostitute or something like that. I thought she making so much money for him to pay him to come to school. What you found out is that how she was making money, because she was her career was a paramedic. What she was doing was it's unclear exactly how she did it, but I'll probably miss that or blink and miss it. She get her hands on like medical hardware, because everything is all transhumanist body part stuff, and that's basically what happens. That she get a really, really advanced piece of tech. And so the main character, when his mom died, and he effectively have no income or no money or anything like that, he gets kicked out of the apartment. And yeah, he just kind of get kind of vexed and go on this rampage, effectively getting a local tech person to put this advanced piece of technology in him. And he go and beat up the school bully, this rich guy who's like the son of the owner of the school or something like that. And then you find out the son of the owner of school he have higher aspirations in terms of military tech. And the technology the fellow was using, you realize it's incredibly advanced. It's not like just some normal mod or whatever it is. It's like something like military, probably most advanced military tech, right there at that point in time. That's how the story starts. Right? He meets his girl. I forget names right now, but I think it's Lucy's her name. And they just go on these misadventures with a gang, stealing stuff, making things, and then eventually the military conspiracy, unravels itself. And that's pretty much it. And ratings-wise, I thought this was okay. I made a mistake of watching this in English. I thought the voice acting was terrible. Sorry. That's how I felt about it. I find mostly voice acting was terrible. Like the big emotional beats, like when main character Dave, his mom dies, yeah, that has come across as cringy as hell. That didn't come across as any kind of workable. I'll listen to a little bit of it in Japanese, and I was enjoying it a little bit. I didn't, super love it, but like it's pretty good. Like it's well done. It's done for what it is. If you really enjoy, if you really enjoy the main conceit of the story, and you enjoy the phenomenon, basically the general aesthetic of Cyberpunk, that's fine. As I said, it really feels, the problems that we already had. There's the problem. As I say, we already had standalone Complex, 20 years ago or even before.
Oh, yes, that's true. In the 2000s, right.
That's the problem. Mm-hmm. This stuff done. Like, it done, like, in terms of the conceit. So, like, I can't see what they could bring to the thing. And the big sell of Cyberpunk was it being a video game. You get to play as a character, so that was the sell. So, like, oh, what if you have Grand Theft Auto, or some first-person open world thing in this world? Then you could sell it, because you could actually modify your character and make it work. But just seeing a normal story with these characters is like, well, it's decent enough. Yeah. I wasn't loving it, to be honest, in that sense. But look, if you like it, you like it, but it is not for me. It is feel as if it's a kind of thing. But the main thing is that a lot of people won't play video games. So, moving on. Like, that's how I feel about it. Ratings, before we get into any major things, rating, I'll give it like a 7 out of 10. It's good. I'm not saying it's not bad or anything like that, but again, it's one of those not for me things. And look, if you're into the Cyberpunk aesthetic and you like it, it's fine. But because Cyberpunk overall has been generally disappointing to me as a game, even if forgetting all the technical problems and all the bullshit that they had to go through, as a story, it still was not engaging in my opinion. I was still pretty underwhelmed with it overall. as a general conceit, and that's how I always felt about the game. And look, next year they find it much like with No Man's Sky, where the game they finally get to fix it and to live up to its promises. From what I understand, next year, sometime early next year, we're gonna get a big DLC for it that's gonna like fix almost everything and addressing. And I probably might get back into and give it a chance, because I know a lot of people saying, yeah, it's actually pretty good for what it is and whatnot. Yeah, back when I read the Diamond Age for the first time, that is when the last time I was into this. I don't know. It's something about the Cyberpunk aesthetic that don't work or make any sense to me in the world. Like why does a character would do these modifications in this way? These modifications don't make any sense. And again, back when we was watching Alita Battle Angel and all that shit, it worked then. But now, not so much to me. Like none of this, like everything I know about medicine and how medicine is working and these kind of things, it just feels like an outdated conceit. It's no different from like, launching a rocket at the moon. It's an outdated aesthetic in science fiction, in my opinion. Like I don't know, but I just me, right? We could still have cyberpunk ideas and make it work, like the Expanse, right? The Expanse have a bunch of cyberpunk in it. It works. It actually make a lot of sense. I don't know. That's how I feel about it in terms of like how the direction work, and it's more to do the anxieties of a person. Sci-fi does usually reflect the anxieties of our current society. So that's how I just think about it as it is. Yeah, that's ratings. I sure have people who like this much more than I do, but I don't know. 7 out of 10 for me. I was pretty underwhelmed. I probably should have watched it in Japanese. I might have enjoyed it a little more, but I really wasn't engaged as it was. It animation looked fine mostly. It feel a little choppy at parts, but like for the most part, I was enjoying most of it. But I don't know. It's just because the cyberpunk is, and I criticizing the general genre, not the actual story itself. The story itself is fine. Like when they reveal everything was it was. It didn't blow me away, but it didn't underwhelm me really necessarily. It's like, all right, that wasn't so bad. That's clever. All right, fine. The twists in the ending with involving a certain character. Well, Dave, I know who Dave have to face off at the ending. And like, all right, that was kind of interesting, but nothing blew me away. As I said, if this was a DLC for the game, fine. They should have put this in game form. But like just as an anime, I couldn't get into it. But yeah, that's how I feel about it. That's 7 out of 10.
All right.
Yeah.